elementary kids, and welcome to the Spark, especially those of you who are in kindergarten or others that might be with us for the very first time. We're so glad that you're with us. Now, those of you that have been to the Spark before know that things look just a little bit different this year. There's some things we're going to do quite a bit different, and I'm excited about the opportunities that we have to try to do things a little bit differently. But there's also some things we're going to do the same. And one thing we're going to do for our large group time is we're going to start off with a little bit of a game. Now, I want to make sure, since we're doing this different format, where we've got kind of this video that you're watching for the Bible story and stuff, I want to make sure you're paying attention. So for this game, everybody gets to play. You're going to watch the screen, and I want to see how observant you can be. Can you pay attention really close here? Because we're going to play a game called Find the Difference. You're going to have 3 opportunities to find the difference between 2 pictures, and you're going to have 30 seconds for each one. And I want to see if you can find those differences. You got to look really close and really pay attention. So let's go ahead and get into it. 30 seconds on the clock for the first one, and let's get into it. So there you go. Not sure how you felt about it. I actually thought those were actually really tough. I had a hard time finding the differences in those pictures. I think maybe I only got 1 out of those 3, so hopefully you did better than I did. But either way, you're warmed up, ready to go for our large group time. And before we get started, I want to introduce our monthly virtue and our monthly memory verse. If you've been to the Spark before, you know that that's kind of how we do things. That's how we set things up. Some things will look different for a while here, but that's one thing that'll stay the same. So each month we have a virtue that we talk about. All the Bible stories we talk about center around that idea, something that God wants to teach us in order to reach the world around us. And so our virtue for this month, what we're going to be focusing on is integrity. And we're going to define integrity as choosing to be truthful in whatever you say and do. And we always have a memory verse that goes along with that. So by the end of the month, hopefully you have this memory verse memorized. And that it comes from Proverbs 10:9, and it says, "Whoever walks in integrity walks securely, but whoever takes crooked paths will be found out." So that's what we're going to be focusing on all month long. And now we're going to turn to Joy and Ian. And if you've been to the Spark before, you know that Joy and Ian are a lot of fun to watch. Ian always has some kind of crazy crazy thing going on, and Joy's always got to kind of help her out of that. So we're excited to see what they have in store for us. Now, it's going to look a little bit different because since we've got different small groups meeting in different parts of the building at the same time, Joy and Ian can't be everywhere to put on that little skit. So what we have for you today, and I'm kind of excited about this, Joy and Ian in the form of a cheesy 1990s sitcom. So sit back and enjoy the adventures of Joy and Ian. Here we go.
Oh man, Joy has been so busy when she's on this cake. Like she's juicing everything. And I know she's like stressed out. So I was thinking maybe I could just make her a nice little drink, like a juice drink. I found this really cute cup. And I think it might be. Yeah, I thought I saw this in here. There's a blender. Yeah. So now the idea would be, what to make her. Oh, let's see. What's in the refrigerator? I can use. Monster milk. Whoa! Somebody left an apple. Drink. Juice box thing. Cool. Okay, apple juice box. Hey, this is gonna make her a pineapple drink. I don't have any pineapple, but hang on a minute.
5 minutes later.
Okay. And there was a pine tree out there, so now pine, apple, pineapple. Yeah. Oh, you know what I forgot? I forgot I was going to get in the mood. So let's see, got a little mood music here. Oh, yeah. I don't have time for that right now. Alright. Now, gotta get this juice box. Alright, it's a little. Oh, that didn't work. There. That should be perfect. Ready? I wonder if it's done. Well, not quite. Maybe a little more juice. Alright. Let's try again. Wait a minute. Why did it stop? It's not done. Uh-oh. I think I might have broke it. Yikes. Yikes. Oh, man. Maybe if I just wiggle it. Oh, it comes apart. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. This is Joy's blender. Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. She juices every day, and it's broken. And now what am I going to do? Oh, my gosh. Oh, man. I know. Adam's in this church, and maybe I can say Adam was gonna make a juice for Joy, and yeah, that's what I'll say. I'll say he knew she was juicing, and it was Adam that broke the juicer. Okay, yeah. So maybe if she comes in, Joy won't know about her blender, and then I'll like, oh.
Hey, Anne.
Hi, Joy. Yeah. Like I was thinking, stuff fell out while I was busy working over here. It was cleaning. It was kind of cleaning stuff, and yeah.
Well, I went to go and try and find my blender this morning so I could make my smoothie that I have in the morning, and I can't seem to find it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's in your car.
I don't know. I've looked. What are you doing moving around?
What?
That's my blender.
Oh, this.
Yes.
Is that a blender?
Yes, but what in the world is in
I don't know. What's
pine cones?
pine cones and apples?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you know what, Joy? You know what? I bet I bet Adam.
Why is it stop? It's not pushing the buttons now.
Yeah, now it's not working at all. It looks broken.
Well, how did it get broke?
I just a guess.
Use it every
I wonder
day.
if Adam wanted to make you a really nice juice, like pineapple juice or something, and he didn't have pineapple juice, and so he took an apple and pine cones and thought that pineapple
Adam
juice.
did this?
Yes, and then it probably broke. Something like that.
That was nice of him to think of, but
Yeah, he's kind of nice like that, but yeah, he
See-
broke it, I'm sure.
really, seems like
Yeah.
you're awfully in tune with Adam today.
We are simpatico. When our brains think the exact same thing, and he's probably going to ask me to do the lesson or something next week. Probably.
Really, and do you know what the virtue is for this lesson?
This month's
Yeah.
virtue?
Yeah.
Well, let's see, wait, I've been thinking about other things, so let me think. I think it's integrity. Integrity is being truthful in all you say and do. It's being truthful and
Yeah.
Okay, it was me. I was the one who put the pine cones in the apple and thought it would be pineapple juice, but I was going to make it for you because you're on this health kick.
Well, I appreciate your
I had a
honesty.
cute cup and
I was
everything.
wondering what was going on, and I could tell it probably wasn't Adam who did this.
It
No.
could have been Adam.
Oh, I appreciate you being honest, and now that you've been honest with me, I can now forgive you for this.
You can?
Yeah.
You can forgive me for this?
Yeah, to be honest with you, I went out today and I bought a brand new blender.
Oh, whoa. That makes me feel a lot better,
Just
Joy.
next time, don't put pine cones in the blender.
No, it didn't work like I really had it envisioned in my head, so
No.
it didn't go like that. Oh, anyway, but I can fix this, Joy. I know I can fix this. As I know this guy that works on small engine repair, and I bet he could do something with this. And I'll get it fixed, and then you can make juice out of it. You could too. Onions and carrots and stuff like that, and have juice
All
like
right.
that. Okay.
Well, I'm gonna follow you and see if I can talk to the guy too.
So there you have the first ever episode of The Adventures of Joy and Deanne, my new favorite cheesy 1990s sitcom. I hope that you enjoyed it. And you saw there that Joy and Deanne mentioned our virtue of the month, integrity. And so as we get into our Bible story today, we're going to learn a great example of that in a man named Daniel. Now you might be familiar of the story of Daniel and the lion's den, but Daniel's story actually began long before that. And we can read about that in the Bible in Daniel chapter 1. So Daniel was a young man living in the land of Judah, and during that time, God's people, they weren't really following God the way they should have been, and they weren't worshiping God the way they should have been. And their land was conquered by the king of Babylon. King Nebuchadnezzar was his name. So the king was worried, King Nebuchadnezzar was worried that eventually God's people would start to fight back. People don't want to just be taken over. At some point, they're going to put up a fight. And he was worried about this. So his strategy, what he decided to do, was take many of the young men from Judah back with him to Babylon to serve as servants. And so the chief of the king's court officials was a man named Ashpenaz. And the king gave Ashpenaz an order to go find young men who were smart and healthy to serve in the palace. He wanted the best of the young men from Judah to come and be his servants back in Babylon. So Ashpenaz chose some of the men from Judah, including Daniel and some of his friends. And the king wanted Daniel and his friends to become more like Babylonians, so Ashpenaz was supposed to teach them some of the Babylonian language, the writings, and just in general, kind of the ways of life of the Babylonian people. Basically, these young men from Judah were supposed to become Babylonians. So they were supposed to be trained for 3 years, and then they could serve the king. So Ashpenaz gave them new names. This was a part of them becoming a part of that culture. The new names were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And then Belteshazzar was Daniel's new name. And you might remember those names. Those might sound familiar because there's a familiar Bible story coming up shortly in this book where we read more about them. Daniel could see that the king wanted them to become Babylonians, so he was kind of on guard about this, but he also was willing to serve the king up until it got to the point where it went against what God was asking of him. He was willing to do what the king wanted as long as it didn't contradict or get in the way or cause problems with what he knew was right in the eyes of God. So the king told his servants to give the men food from his own table. In other words, this was the best of the best. The food was different from the food the Jewish people ate in order to honor God. So that was the problem. It was really good food, but Daniel didn't quite feel comfortable with it. And Daniel asked Ashpenaz, the king's official, for permission not to eat the king's food. He said, if it's all right, I'm just not going to eat this king's food. I'm going to stick with vegetables and water. And Ashpenaz was kind of worried about this because he thought if Daniel and his friends looked worse than the other men, the king might kill him. You know how kings are in these old times. They were pretty ruthless. So Ashpenaz was worried that, man, if these guys just eat vegetables and drink water, they're not going to be very strong, they're not going to be very good looking, and this is going to be a problem when the king sees them. So he was too afraid to give Daniel permission, and so Daniel approached the guard who was assigned to take care of him, and Daniel asked the guard to give them only vegetables and water for 10 days. He said, here's the deal, we'll do it for 10 days, and the guard agreed. So Daniel and his friends ate only vegetables and water for 10 days. And after the 10 days, they looked healthy and well-fed. In fact, they looked even better than the others who had been eating the king's food. So the 4 friends looked better than any of the young men who had eaten the king's food. The guard allowed them to keep eating vegetables because he said, hey, if they're going to look better and look healthier anyway, we'll just keep doing this. And God continued to give Daniel and his friends knowledge and understanding. At the end of their training, they were brought before the king, and the king saw just how smart, just how intelligent these guys were. So Daniel and his friends eventually became the king's most trusted advisors. They were given these important position right next to the king to help him out with some of the problems that he had. So what the king had been doing was he had been calling on people that relied on tricky ways of giving him answers. They claimed they could use magic to find the answers to the king's questions. But Daniel and his friends, they counted on God. They depended on God. And we can read in 120 kind of the difference that came about as the king saw what was happening. In Daniel chapter 1, verse 20, it says, in every matter of wisdom and understanding about which the king questioned them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and enchanters in his whole kingdom. So the king started to realize Daniel and his friends, these guys were onto something here. And he trusted them more and gave them a better position than any of the other people that the king had previously looked to. And what's great about this story is that Daniel never stopped standing strong for the one true God in everything they said and did. Daniel and his friends showed great integrity by staying true to what they knew was right. They were a great example of what it looks like to live out integrity. Now remember, Daniel had nothing against the king, and he was willing to serve the king to the best of his ability, whatever he asked, up until the point where he knew it wasn't right. And when he knew that it wasn't right, that's when he took a stand. Daniel and his friends both. They were truthful with what they said and did, and really with who they just were as people. And so Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were great examples of integrity and a great example of our bottom line, which is be truthful with your whole life. That's it for our Bible story today. So let's go ahead and get into the small group portion. Go ahead and have a great discussion with your group.